Okay. I turned the camera off, just did my first I'm going to talk about Etsy video. And I teased at two stories. So I'm going to tell you one of them right now about the girl who was making 11 cents an hour. Because I will tell you right now, the biggest challenge, there's challenges. The single biggest challenge of running an online business is that people do not math. And people also do not reach out for help with the math. And that is the biggest problem. If the math is over your head, and that's fine. Not everybody has a mathematically balanced brain. Balanced brain? Not everybody really, people don't math, and that's fine. I mean, I don't do ballroom dancing. I don't climb mountains. It's fine. There's things that, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. By the way, that's probably your biggest tip right there is leave your ego at the door and recognize your strengths, recognize your weaknesses, get help with your weaknesses, and don't be afraid to ask for that. So people don't math. People don't math is the biggest problem that I've seen. I'll probably say this is the biggest problem. I'll probably say that over 12 different topics, but it's definitely up there as one of the biggest problems. People do not math. So 11 cent an hour girl. She was a young lady. She was all over the social medias. And I believe she had a disability of some kind. And I'll get to that. I mean, it's not about her disability, and it's not about her inability to do math. It's about, so this is what happened. So this girl is making handmade greeting cards, and she makes each individual greeting card by hand. But they're very, very simple. It's a photo with a funny caption, and then she would sell them for about $5 each. And she would come online. Oh, I made my newest card. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be a good card? She was just looking for encouragement and whatnot. And a lot of people get into the social media help groups. If you go into Facebook and just type in Etsy, you'll find a list. You'll probably even find mine. You'll find a list of help groups. Etsy help, Etsy this, Etsy that. You'll find. So she was in a bunch of the groups, and she would talk about her stuff, right? And she popped up all the time, and it's like, well, that is really sweet that this girl is finding a way to make extra money for herself. She mentioned at several points having a disability, and I really don't know what the disability is, so I'm not making any assumptions there. And that was fine, but I'm looking at her stuff, and I'm seeing and people are encouraging her. This is great. This is wonderful. This is great. This is wonderful. But every single time somebody came back and said, you should do this because you don't sound like you're making any money. You should do this. You should do this. Well, over time, and I got curious, and I started, every time I saw a post, I'd start reading and read through the comments and listen and read her replies and stuff like that. Because you do that. You're sitting there drinking your morning coffee. And my God, that's what social media is. You're sitting there drinking your morning coffee, and you're going, oh, what the fuck is going on now in the world? So I would watch this girl. And I was newer myself, so it's like, ooh, this sounds, something's not sitting right with me, and I want to, like, what's going on? So basically, what it turns out, she has a physical disability. Her disability ranges into the physical, and she's taking a photograph, gluing it to a card, making a caption, doing each one individually, and then selling the card for about $5 with free shipping. But it's like, I already know that shipping's not cheap. It's about, even when you're just putting it in an envelope, so you're taking a $5 card, every single platform. If you are selling a product online, you will pay a fee for the privilege of doing so. Now on Etsy, those fees total about 9.5%. So this girl's losing, plus there's a 20-cent listing fee, and this is all in US amounts. So like the 20-cent listing fee in Canada is, I believe, currently sitting at like 26 cents Canadian. So she's paying a listing fee of 20 cents, and I can't remember where she lived. She's paying 20 cents US for her listing fee. Credit card fees. Now, credit card fees are really important. This is about the math, don't forget. A credit card fee is 25 cents US plus 3.5%, which means that if you have a really low dollar item, if you're trying to sell an item for 50 cents, you've already got 50 cents in listing fees. 20 cents for the listing fee. This is Etsy, by the way. 20 cents to list it, 25 cents to process the payment, plus 3.5%. You've turned... It's costing you 45 cents just to walk in the door is the punchline. So she has a $5 product. It's costing her 45 cents that's the base charges. Those charges don't change. Etsy charges 20 cents a listing plus I think they've moved their prices up to 6.5%. Because they have I mean, bandwidth, internet bandwidth is not cheap, right? Okay, so I'm over explaining this. Punchline is that she is paying her 20 cents to list, 25 cents for the base credit card fee, plus 9.5%, which is 10%. I always round up. Always round up, by the way. Pro tip, always round up. Because if your numbers are wrong and you've rounded up, that's more money for you. If the numbers are wrong and you've rounded down, that's less money for you. Always round up. So 10% plus 45 cents. So 10% of $5, 50 cents. It's costing her almost $1.50 to list her product. Okay? It's like, okay, well, I mean, this is okay. This is fine. This is fine. I get it. She's taking a photo. So the photo paper, don't know how much that is per sheet. People, this is about not mathing, right? I don't know how much. So let's say it's 10 cents. She's already up to almost $1.70, $1.60, $1.70. And if she's not in the U.S., I mean, like I said, in Canada, we're already up to almost $2 because of the exchange rate. Okay. Plus, she's free shipping for about $2. She's making about $1 a card. Okay. She is at best making about $1 a card. Okay. It turns out that her physical disability, it takes her about 4 hours to do just that. 4 to 6 hours to make a single card. And then it takes her another couple of hours to sell it because she self-promotes. So she's on the social group, she's doing the thing. So she's taking a wage of a little tiny bit over, she's taking a paycheck of a little over $1. And because of her disability issues, she's doing this one card at a time. So she's making about $1.10, $1.20 a card, but putting in 8 to 10 hours of work total by the time that card sells per card, because she makes a single card and then sells it, makes a single card and then sells it. So I'm looking at the comments and I'm watching the comments and people are going, oh my God, this is great. You do you. It's like, what? But she's doing it wrong. She's making, and I did the math, she is at most making 11 cents an hour. It's like, oh, well, this is great that you're helping to support your disability income by doing this. It's like 11 cents an hour. That's, you know what? I have a disability and I would never settle for 11. I have a fucked up leg. I would never settle for 11 cents an hour under any circumstances. This girl is making 11 cents an hour. Nobody's pointing out the math. Not nobody. I'll get to there. Okay, she's making 11 cents an hour and everybody's telling her, you're the big fucking hero for doing this. How great, how wonderful. Keep doing it, keep doing it, So she's getting dozens of comments telling her to keep doing it. This is great. You're doing perfect. You're doing it right. This is right. This is perfect. This is perfect. I come in the one day and I said, this is a problem. I wasn't the only one, by the way. Every single time somebody come in and said, you're doing this wrong and you really need to sit down with somebody and maybe digitize these so you can sell them in packs. If it takes you that long to make it, if it takes, anyway, every single time, and this is what I'm talking about knowing your limitations, knowing this, knowing that, because everybody had her so pumped up. You're doing great. And we always, who doesn't want to hear that, right? That every single time, without fail, if somebody came in and said, this is not okay. As a disabled person, you should not settle for this because that is ableism. There's a word for this. It's like where somebody's like, okay, it's one thing if you're telling this to a 2-year-old, but this was an adult who was trying to make extra money for themselves. So she's going, yeah, I've got $5 because I sold my card, and she's not thinking about how much money it's costing her to get that $5. And people would come in and say, you already have a camera, you're already taking these pictures. Why don't you do something with the picture and then print? Why don't you take a picture of your finished card, print them out, and instead of charging $5 for one card that you spent 10 hours at, take that one card, turn it into 20 cards that you can sell for $4 each. That's good math. 20 cards, $4 each, that's $80. Even if you're only making $1 a card, that's $20 versus one. Okay. Anyway, the punchline to this story, this is why I still remember the story. The punchline to this story is this girl got so pumped up because, people that are dealing with the kind of disabilities where they can't work and it takes them 10 hours, 4 to 6 hours, to make a single greeting card. people with those level of disabilities issues can and do need a lot of encouragement, but the encouragement went to her head to the point where good advice was being thrown away. And then somebody would come in and go, this is not working for you. This is a really bad idea for you. People would just go, they will go crazy. Leave her alone. She's doing great. She's my hero. She is this, she is that. It's like, you guys are encouraging her into this abyss that she's never going to crawl out of. And she was a young girl. I think she was only like 18 or 19. So she's going, you leave me alone. I'm doing what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. You're making 11 cents an hour. That's what you're doing. Okay. Anyway, I'm trying to be really respectful of the story because I kid you not. I'm trying so hard to be respectful that I'm coming off like boring in my tone, because the reality is, when I'm reading this and telling Lisa, I'm going, I cannot effing believe how effing stupid these people are, that they are encouraging this girl to the point where she thinks she's got this shit figured out. And every single attempt to help her with new ideas, new information, nobody's telling her to change what she's doing. Like, nobody's saying, oh, your art sucks, your captions suck. Nobody's telling her this. They're saying, you're doing this wrong because you could be making more money. And people are like literally going off the fucking deep end. And oh my God, I spent many an hour, because then a few days later, she'd be back with a new card. And these exact same supporters. We're here to support each other. And sometimes support is the biggest mistake, because you're not, okay, criticism can be mean and ill-intentioned, and that's fine. But if somebody's saying to you, you're not making nearly enough money for this to make sense. You need to be doing something else with these cards, or you're just wasting your time. And if somebody tells me that, I'm not going to go, oh my God, I'm doing the best I can and you need to leave me alone. I sell, my cards sell. People buy my cards. Now, I'm not blaming this girl. She was 18 and was and the crowd was whipping her into a frenzy, because the minute anybody said anything negative, it was an absolute dog pile. 40, 50. This was a very large group with 20,000 people in it or some ridiculous thing. You would say anything negative to this girl and it was an automatic dog pile. And it was like, of course, the girl's 18. It's going to get to her head. I am not by any means implying a mental deficiency in this girl. I have no idea I know she had some sort of a disability. I do not know whether or not it was mental. I don't think that it was, actually. I think she was just young. Anyway, so 11 cent an hour girl, and is one example of do your fucking math. And if you don't know how to do the math, ask a friend that you trust to do the math. Reach out to, I'm not kidding. Reach out. Reaching out professionally is a big step. And it's not something that everybody wants to do. But if you are going to start sinking capital into what you're doing, if you're like, I really want to do this. Okay, this is my expensive machine. This is my Janome. I'm not going to go buy this machine and then start sewing, right? I'm not going to go pay for high-end accountancy to go over my numbers before I've even sold, when I'm only making $1 a card profit. It's not about it's not about spending a shit ton of money to sort out this problem. It's about, if you are not, blah, blah, blah. If you cannot sit down and figure out how much you're making off of your stuff, find somebody who can help you with that and get your numbers. That's the number one rule of selling online. Get your numbers. As a matter of fact, I'm only 14 minutes in. I'll tell you the story of T-shirt guy, because I mentioned him in the first video too. T-shirt guy. Now he was don't even pardon my French. You guys know I swear. He was a fucking idiot. This guy was doing T-shirts. Now basically what they do, how these businesses work, for those who don't know, is you buy a plain T-shirt. Okay, this is a plain T-shirt. You would buy a T-shirt and then have iron-on transfers. Everybody knows what an iron-on transfer is, right? So a T-shirt business, they buy their T-shirts in bulk. They have actual machines, not just standing at an ironing board where you slide the machine, right? Some T-shirt businesses, there's also something that you can do now, fabric printing, where you just basically load up a T-shirt, blah, 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 click a button, and this specialized printer just prints it out for you, okay? We're talking investment. Okay, t-shirt, yeah, we're talking investment, at least in this particular story. T-shirt guy was another one of these guys. T-shirt guys was the exact opposite. This 11 cent an hour girl was a girl who desperately needed somebody to sit down with her, talk about the math, and explain to her other ways to keep doing what she's doing. But like I said, like, if you've come up with a lovely, lovely design that you're selling and people are excited about, then find a way to duplicate it, replicate it, get it on a good printer on some nice paper, and do it that way. Like you know what I mean? It's like, okay, little Jim, I go back to 11 cent an hour girl. Little Jimmy's 3 years old and he brings you a card that he made himself and you want to share with the family. You don't make that kid go back and make 30 cards. You take a really good photo of it and start sending it out. Same thing. Or you print off or you take a photo, print a bunch off, put them in the family update. Here you go, right? Anyway, I still get on my high horse about this poor girl because she could have. When I see people with disabilities being held back by supportive good intentions, because that's what it was. Supportive good intentions took on this mentality that was actually holding her back. And that really, really upset me on a lot of levels because I do have a disability. Like I said, I got a fucked up leg. But anyway, this guy, he was a businessman and he knew what he was doing. It's like, I'm a businessman. I know what I'm doing. Oh, I'm checking a puppy. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Snoring can sound weird. Both my dogs can snore, and they're not breeds that necessarily snore, but they both do. Anyway, on to T-shirt guy. T-shirt guy just left me shaking my head, going, "You're an idiot, buddy. Why are you so dumb?" Okay, T-shirt guy has an Etsy shop, and again, I usually find these people through their Etsy interactions. T-shirt guy, Etsy shut me down, and I don't know why. Okay, whatever, I don't care. Etsy shut me down, and I don't know why, is a huge video all of its own that I'm going to have to make later, and I'm going to have to actually prepare for it with a list and everything. Because that's one thing that people get scared of. Anyway, okay, so T-shirt guy, I know why he was shut down, but T-shirt guy, he got behind and stopped sending out orders. And Etsy could tell. It's like, dude, you're like $5 or $6 grand behind now. What the fuck? Shut him down because they wouldn't communicate with them. Anyway, T-shirt guy is a businessman. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do a business. I know this. I know that. Well, T-shirt guy is flipping his shit because I make $350,000 a year selling on Etsy. Etsy owes me. So I looked it up. He did. Made $350,000 a year selling on Etsy on average. That's what it looked like from his stats. And okay, if you look at a person's shop, you can basically take a look at what their sales are. And it's like if somebody has 10,000 sales, but every single product is $15, well, 10,000 times 15, right? You can generally do the math. So I took a look. It's like, okay, is this guy brag? Okay, let's back up. Some people get in trouble with their shops. And they're like, I do this and I do that, and I make $1 million a year on Etsy. And you go look, and they've got 3 sales. So this guy was just launching, and it's like, before I even bother reading the rest of this, let's go find out if he has an actual shop is he telling the truth? He was. Okay. So, okay, T-shirt guy. Okay, you made $350,000 a year. This is awesome. So what's going on? Why are you flipping out? And he was flipping out about a whole bunch of stuff. So this went in circles. So this gets a little bit well, I guess, okay, in my brain it's a circular thing because there was a whole lot going on. But what I really noticed is as he was bitching and complaining and talking about how horrible Etsy was and blah, 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 I'm like, I'm a math person. I am a math person. So I will see the pattern in the numbers. Okay, not like that. It's like, he's spouting off all these numbers and it doesn't make sense. He's like, I'm having to close down my production. He was big enough that he went and rented space. I have to lay off 8 people. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm like, wait. $350,000, 8 full-time jobs. This doesn't make sense. You know, just the average wages alone. How the hell is he making money? So I looked it all up. I did all the lookups on this guy. Okay, so he's got a T-shirt business. Okay, that's fine. He leased all of his equipment, all of it. So, and again, I'm sitting there drinking my coffee and I've got nothing better to do. So I go, look, oh, how much does it cost to lease a t-shirt press? Oh, wow, that's a lot. And he's talking about how he's got like five, I don't know, I forget now. This is a couple of years old. But he was like, well, he said blah, so he's spending this, so he made $350,000 a year, but he's spending X amount for this, X amount for that. Okay. So I did the math, and I forget exactly what the numbers are now, but he's like, so $350,000 a year. He's talking about how he has 8 employees, 4 full-time, 4 part-time. So I'm like, okay, well, a part-timer is usually 20 hours. So let's estimate 6 full-time employees. It's a lot of fucking money. Okay, well, all right, this is fine. And then he starts talking about his equipment leasing costs. He's like, because he's bitching. It's like, my shop got shut down, and now I've got all these bills, and I've got all this, and I've got all that, right? And because he is desperately trying to find a way to contact, who do I contact? His basic thing was, who do I contact at Etsy to force them, not to ask them, to force them to reopen my business because they owe me. That was his whole rant. Anyway, so he's losing his shit, but he's giving numbers. He's talking about his, like, I've got this and I've got that. And some people, I probably wasn't the only one, because some of the questions, messages and answers, some of the questions did seem a little bit leading. They're going, well, blah, 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 like, I mean, this and this and this. So he'd give more information. By the time it's all over, I did the math. I'm doing the math. I'm just doing envelope math, and I'm underestimating. It's like, well, he can't be spending that much for his equipment. Oh, he can't be spending that much on wages. So 6 guys at minimum wage, this much equipment at this rate. Maybe he got a discount because he's renting so much of it. Anyway, turns out he's spending about $400,000 a year to run a $350,000 a year business. So he's got a big business. He's doing lots of money. He was spending $1,000 a day on his, $1,000 a week. I forget what his number was. He was spending this horrendously huge amount. Etsy has this thing. When you first start on Etsy, you can only have X amount of money in advertising, because you can click the thing and do the ads. And by the way, I do ads at like $1 a day just because I can. I have a premium account that gives you like an ad credit. So it's like, oh, well, my ad, it cost me like about $6 a month for my ads. So because of my credit, I forget how the credits work. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, it's like, okay, this is fine. I guess I'll click that button because I'm not really paying for it. This guy, but okay, you do ads. After a while, it's like a credit card. You do ads, and then after a while, they'll increase your limit, increase your limit, increase your limit. This guy was spending a few $100s a day to advertise. Just that alone is like, what the fuck are you? Okay, I get it, but what the fuck are you doing, buddy? You don't have a 350, you do not have a profit. He did not have a profitable business. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, this guy was making every single mistake that you could make in running a business, because he was seeing his income as one thing and seeing his expenses as not related. He wasn't counting it that way. And so people started saying to him, like, your numbers don't make sense. You're losing money. And he's going, well, of course you have to lose money for the first few years. That's how you pay your dues in the business world. And so people kind of changed their tune. This is where it gets weird. Not weird, weirder, I guess. It was already weird. He had no idea how his money worked, period. No idea. So he's losing money saying how important he is, blah, 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 blah. And so people are like going, your numbers don't make sense, you're losing money. And he's like, well, of course I am. This is how you pay your dues. You got to do this for the first 2 or 3 years, and this and this and this and this and this. Because he had savings, he had a day job, he had something going on that was paying the difference, right? And so people are like, well, maybe you're better off scrapping this, going on Amazon, eBay, doing whatever. But maybe you're better off scaling back, rethinking how you're doing it, because you can't lose $50,000 a year and have a viable business. And he started. Oh my God, I have no sympathy. I know what I'm doing. I'm a businessman. This is what success looks like. And it's like, if this is what success looks like, why are you on Etsy? Etsy is a great. As long as you design it yourself, you can do T-shirts and stuff like that. You have to design it yourself. And where possible, produce it yourself, which he was, right? He was not breaking the Etsy rules. He lost it. I think something happened, like he was coming up on something happened, like it was coming up onto Christmas and he got behind. So instead of going on Etsy has a thing called vacation mode where you can just kind of pause your shop. Instead of doing that so he could catch up, he just kept taking the orders, got behind, got warnings, ignored them, kept getting behind, and then suddenly they just like, yeah, screw you, buddy. We can't. Because, no matter how much money you're making, sometimes things change. What if his shop burned down and he just decided, oh, well, fuck this, I'm just going to keep the money. Who knows, right? Because that has happened. That's why people think like that. Anyway. So this guy's losing his shit. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. And I'm like, if you don't understand the math, you're not a professional. And don't forget, Etsy is like 7 million people. It's a giant mall with 7 million shops in it. As soon as it's like, oh, well, he's selling at a really, really good price. I'll buy his t-shirts. Because he's like, once you get established, then you raise your prices, which is fair. That's how a lot of businesses do it. But if you're in a mall with 7 million shops, the minute you raise your prices, people are going to go to the next shop selling the same thing, right? So this guy had what must have been the most losing business model that I have ever seen. He was literally going into debt, thinking that once he hit a certain point that he could double his prices overnight. Like I said, this guy just wouldn't shut up. And then he turned on everybody because people are like, you may want to rethink your business before you approach Etsy about fixing everything. They may have just done you a favor to save you from bankruptcy. Like, this is bad. You can't do this. And he's like, yes, I can. I know what I'm doing. I'm a businessman. And then he's telling people, this is the part I remembered this. It's like, and then I made a couple comments to him. It's like, dude, your math does not add up. And, 50 people respond to me going, yeah, like his math does not work. This is not, he's coming back. I understand exactly how the math works. I know this, I know that. I'm a math genius. And I'm like, you're an idiot. Anyway, that is T-shirt guy. T-shirt guy was literally paying for the privilege of losing money. That's what he was doing. Sure, the guys who worked for him are like, yeah, great, we're making money. He's not. And I get that every now and again. Okay, there was a couple of weeks I had Rose working with me, right? And now, don't forget, I do know math. There was a couple of weeks where I had Rose working for me. We had whatever going on. And what happened the one time? Nothing happened. But I knew I was going to be having a really quiet week in the shop. Certain times of the year, it was like back to school or something. A back to school weekend. The week before and the week after back to school are very historically quiet because people are out dealing with their kids. They're not online shopping, right? And if they have money, they're spending it on the kids. They're not home online shopping. I knew I was going to have a quiet couple of weeks. I paid Rose more than I paid myself that week. Absolutely. That's the cost of doing business. That's for 2 weeks. This guy had been in business for almost 2 years doing this. And he was losing money every single month and thinking that he was coming out ahead somehow because I'm going to, it's like, you don't just hop in the car and go on a trip. First, you have to pack everything. And he was kind of using that mentality. It's like, I'm getting everything set up for my future success. And it's like, but you're not in the environment where that really translates, because it doesn't. This idea that you must take losses for the first X amount of time before you start making money doesn't really translate in the online world, not the same way. This is why I like Etsy, by the way. It's a 20-cent listing fee. It's a 20-cent listing fee to put your products on Etsy, and a listing lasts for 4 months. That's your only risk. Obviously, you've got to have your product, but the risk. I'm not paying monthly fees. Certain companies are going to charge you whatever upfront, and they're all different. Etsy has among the lowest fees. And as long as you're not advertising and getting their premium account, they have a premium account and they have advertising options. As long as you're skipping that part and you just throw something up on Etsy, it costs you 20 cents and you have 4 months for the item to sell. Per item. Like if I'm trying to sell 6 pins, then think of it as a vending machine. As each one moves to the front, so it's a per item listing fee. Anyway, and you don't pay anything else until after your item sells. So as long as you understand the math, you're profitable from day one, which is one of the reasons why I really like Etsy. But you got to understand the math. This is the whole point of this talk, is that the math is what matters. Understanding the math will make or break your business. It is really, really vitally important to understand what you're buying, how you're buying it. And it's a lot of math. It is. It's a lot of math initially, and I'm going to do a separate video outlining. I'm going to do a separate video outlining how the math works, but I actually want to sit down and get it all written out because that one's probably going to really need to. It's going to need to make a lot of sense. But if you are understand the math is the first big step, because I will say, like, okay, you make a quilt. I sew, right? Okay, so I make a quilt. I track my hours and I say, okay, well, I spent this much for my materials. I spent this much in my time. Always give your, even if you're not concerned about making a lot of money, always give your time some value, unless you're just a hobbyist. If you're just a hobbyist trying to get back the cost of your materials, it's like, oh, I love making quilts. I don't care if I profit. I just want to pay for my materials. But whatever it is that you want to get out of it. So if paying yourself for your time is important to you, make sure that that's part of your calculations. Okay, so I do the math and I say, okay, well, it cost me like this much money for materials. I spent this much time on it. So when you combine all that, this is how much I want for a quilt. Well, I'm slow. I'm slow. I'm not getting, I mean, if I need to put a quilt up for sale for like, $1,500 to break even on it, because I did really super high end materials and I spent weeks and weeks, I spent weeks of my time making a quilt and not making other things that could have made me money or whatever, then yeah, you need to know, it is vitally important to you to know where that money is. You're not going to, like, okay, the quilt that I made for Lisa, that's on her bed, that cost me $600 in materials. I'm not selling that quilt online for $200. I'm not doing it. I'm going to make sure I know how much everything costs. So first rule of Etsy is understand your costs. First rule of online selling, understand how much it's costing you. Understand how much there's everything. There's like cost of your materials. There's the cost to ship. You're an online business. Unless you are selling digital products, everything needs to go in a package in the mail and you need to pay postage. Understand if you're spending money for advertising, understand what you're spending, when, where, and how. It's really easy to lose track. It's really easy to lose track of incidental expenses. And I said I wasn't going to get into the actual money right now. But okay, those are just 3 things right there. And I might even just edit this part out. But it's really important to understand the math of what you're doing. But it's also really important to understand that the math isn't difficult. It's tedious. It's not hard, but it's really, really easy to overlook some details. That's the part that really, really matters. Like I said, I can get in there and go, oh, it's like if I determine that I must sell a product for a certain price, selling it for less than that is just, I'm spending money for the privilege of sending this to somebody else. Because I am. It's like if it costs me $30 to make a bag and I'm selling them for $20, sure, that person gave me $20. They spent $20, but I lost $8. Did I say? I lost money in the trade-off. And I lost more than I think I did if I'm not paying attention to the fees, the shipping, the this, the that, the this, the that. And we're going to go over that in another video. As a matter of fact, I might even, no, I've got to stop babbling. I'm probably going to edit the crap out of this piece, because I've really got to put that together in a way that makes sense. But anyway, every online environment has its costs. Some are higher than others. There's no such thing as a hidden cost. There's just a cost that you didn't take into consideration. And always keep that in mind when you're doing this. So the math is king in this whole situation. And the idea of selling for a loss, like I said, I cost everything out and realized that the only way for me to break even on a quilt is to sell it for $1,800, which is not true. I'm just making up numbers to make this sound good. Selling it for less than that, it makes no sense, because how long does it take me to make a quilt? So I'm going to do one quilt, another. I'm not making 30 quilts a week, right? You can really trap yourself into losing money perpetually and not realize you're doing it, especially if you have a secondary income that kind of masks what's going on. That can happen, which is something else that I'll address in the whole let's break down the numbers. I've got to do a video on that, so we'll see what I can come up with. So we'll just take that as it comes. But the math is king. Don't make $11 an hour. Don't spend $50,000. Don't spend, like, for a lot of people, for most people, $50,000 is a year's income. Don't spend a year's income, and don't mistake one kind of success for another kind of success. T-shirt guy was making $350,000 a year. He wasn't lying. He was succeeding at that. He was failing at the business. His business was failing, and he refused to even admit there was a problem because he knew everything. Don't be that guy. Also, don't be working for 11 cents an hour. Unless there's people that work, there's people that sell at a loss intentionally. They're just trying to get some of their money back. They don't care, but you need to understand your numbers so that you can make an informed decision. 11 cent an hour girl was not making an informed decision. She thought she was making more than she was. T-shirt guy knew what the numbers were, but he refused to realize what that was going to do to him, because there's no way in hell he could have survived. There's no way in hell that he was going to turn this into a viable business for the long term, period. Which I can get it. I'm going to get into that, not that particular, but you'll see as you follow along with me and wander through my twisted little brain, you will see where that goes down the road. But yeah, don't be those people. Don't do that. And I'm probably going to make my very next video all about the math, just to make sure that they're staying in sequence. But I will be back. I'm going to go for now. I'm going to edit this stuff because I need to edit this stuff now. Things need to be edited. Editing is not, you know what? Editing is not too bad. It's not horrible. As long as editing doesn't become some total horrible nightmare that I decide I hate, in which case I will beg and plead and bribe my wife to help me, because that's just the person I am. Anyway, I'm going to get going. Like, subscribe if you like what you see. You know the deal. Give me some comments. And again, with this, any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, anything that you want further information on, yada, 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 go ahead and ask. I love to, I like to talk to you guys while I'm having my morning coffee instead of trolling around for crap like T-shirt guy stories. Well, no, I like T-shirt guy stories. But yeah, I love to hear. I love your feedback. I love chatting with you guys in the comments. So make sure you leave a comment. And otherwise, you guys have a great day. I will be back again with another video soon. Bye.